Hello everybody. We all know I've talked Spyro before. He's like the purple dragon I like to talk about. Well, I've always been curious about the GBA games since not a lot of people talk about them. And it's really interesting seeing as how the first GBA game we're going to talk about is meant to be an alternate sequel to the PS1 trilogy. So I'm really curious how they're going to handle, especially seeing as how my favorite game out of the trilogy is Spyro 2. Let's get started with Spyro Season of Ice. Alright, so upon starting the game, we see Spyro, Bianca, and Hunter relaxing on the beach. Hey Spyro, I think I see a flying sea saucer heading straight for us. Let's get out of here before it abducts us. That's not a flying sea saucer, Hunter. It's just a balloon. Which pretty much brings up the question of how did Hunter confuse a balloon for a flying sea saucer? I mean, I know he's dumb, but he's not that dumb. Whatever. So as Bianca reads the letter, it is soon revealed that Zoe, along with the other fairies, have been trapped in ice crystals by another Nork, and that the others Norks have returned. So seeing as how Bianca forgot her magic book, our hero splits path, and so the adventure continues. Before I talk about the game itself, I've got to mention the fact that, yeah, those CGI and the cutscenes weren't that great. I mean, Spyro looks fine, but Hunter looks like derpy. Bianca looks dead inside. It looks like the CGI got dated as well as compressed due to the GBA, so the cutscenes suffer because of that. Anyway, the game is an isometric game. You go from analog sticks to D-pads, which is awkward, and sometimes you feel like you're not even going the right way. And sometimes I don't like how precise the game wants you to be with it, like moving the spike cactus bombs, for example. Then you have jumping, gliding, etc., which is the A button. I don't mind that too much. B is fire. Again, I don't mind that too much. Although sometimes I do end up mixing up the two, and that can get me. L is to charge, which is kind of finicky in this game. It doesn't feel as natural as in the PS1 games. The game has several maps, like for example, Spring Fairy Home, where each time you fall off, you whee! Oh, I wanna go again. Now, before I talk about the rest of the levels that you play as Spyro, let's talk about the ones where you play as Sparks, because oh boy, do I have a lot to say about them. Oh boy. Sparks levels are essentially suitors. You know, the usual. What makes this one stand apart from the other ones is how flippin' rancid the enemies are. Not only is there a lot of them, but they will go through you, they will go to you, and then they want you dead. And thank God these don't use the life system unlike Spyro, because if they did, I would have seen a lot of game overs a while ago. But no, these aren't fun. They're more stressful and downright annoying. But similarly, Spyro's levels have the problem where the maps are too huge, which leaves some parts looking exactly the same, hence you getting lost really easily. You'll usually find yourself doing stuff for others, which results in you being rewarded with a fairy stuck in a crystal ice, which you can then free by breathing fire on. There's usually many objectives in one level, which is good because certain gates on the home world won't allow you to go through unless you have the certain amount of fairies required. But that doesn't really mean much when sometimes in the beach level, you die by Another problem I have with this game is the amount of leap of faith the game wants you to do. You see, because the game is on Game Boy Advance, that forces the game to be zoomed in and cropped in. That's a problem with a lot of the Game Boy Advance ports of older games. But as I was saying, in this game, the game wants you to do a lot of leap of faith, which may or may not lead you to your death. It's always a gamble, and that's why I never like when games include leap of death in the level design. With that being said though, I do wonder how they managed to cover the best part of the trilogy, the flying, into this game, limitations and all. I really hope they didn't just turn it into Star Fox. You know, I should learn to keep my mouth shut. Okay, seriously, what is up with Spyro wanting to be like Star Fox? First we got that moment in the first Legend of Spyro, and now this? My god. Well, anyway, this is more mindless than anything. There isn't really any challenge or variety to this. It's just Star Fox on crack. Finally, we have the bosses. Honestly, they aren't really that interesting. They're just kind of boring. And speaking of which, we find out that the main bad guy who turned every fairy in the crystal ice is a Nork by the name of Grendor, who turns out that he doesn't want to have 3 heads, which leads to the question of why did he turn himself into having 3 heads in the first place? Why and how? And second of all, the fairies addressed this in the game, I know, but couldn't he just have asked the fairies instead of just capturing them into crystal ice? It makes the whole game feel pointless now that I think about it. But yeah, overall, I'm actually kind of disappointed with this. Sure, the music was fine, but that's actually the game as a whole. It's fine, but it could have been so much better. So what's the story this time? Well, after the events of the first game, Spyro, Elora, Bianca, and Sparks returned from their trip. It's about time we finally got some vacation time, isn't it? Getting rid of all those Rhinox was a real pain in the... Hey, where is everyone? I thought we'd get a welcome home party. For sure.
That is pretty funny.
Also, I couldn't help but talk about it, but that is the cutest smirk I've ever seen from Spyro. The dude is ready. Yeah. So the trio go to Dragon Elder, who explains that the Norks have taken the dragonflies again. But things won't be easy as we start off with ice breath instead of our usual fiery breath. Hey, Spyro can still breathe fire, can't you, Spyro? Sir! Oops. And we are off to a good start already. The graphics in the intro have improved a whole heck of a lot. They even added the details of having Spyro characters talk like Banjo-Kazooie characters. Some sound weirder than others, but I gotta admire that detail. But as for the game, well, you see the controls are the same as the previous game, except here it feels less stiff and way more comfortable. Like the previous game, you'll be finding yourself doing several kinds of objectives, but unlike the previous game, you're doing it for the dragonflies and not for the fairies. Although I am wondering why the dragonflies share the same portrait. It makes sense for them to have the same ugly design, but the same color too, even if in game they don't have the same color. Odd. I don't like dashing in this game because it can lead you to your doom. Okay, seriously, what the hell is this? It looks like one of those uncanny renders you'd find in early 2000s advertisement. It looks so creepy and edited. I'm giving credit to the first one for having an actual game over that's in spirit with the console PS1 games, not whatever is going on here.
I'm mad.
Also, why is he snorting bubbles? Along with Spyro, you can also play as his friends, such as the Space Monkey. Space. His level are mundane, mindless, and some of the enemies can be a little bit cheap, but mostly ridiculously easy. And you will never, ever run out of ammo, ever. Then there's Sila the kangaroo. She is awkward to control, even more so than Spyro from the first game. And as for the bosses, well, since the villain is Ripto again, that means his minions are the bosses. And also himself, but you know. And spoiler alert, they are as great as their counterpart in Spyro 2. Obviously not better, but still they are somewhat better than the pathetic ones from the previous game. And finally you have Sparks Panic, a neat little shoot 'em up that's nothing more than a time waster. So overall, I'd say that Spyro 2 Season of Flames is easily up there with one of my favorites, alongside the actual Spyro 2. One thing I will bring up, however, is the music. For some reason, both of them have non-Spyro-like music. They sound more like music you'd find in an obscure Capcom music game. While Season of Ice got generic music because of that, I'd say that Season of Flame had the catchiest soundtrack between the two. There's definitely a lot here, and I recommend listening to the soundtrack. Next up, Attack of the Norks. Wait, Attack of the Norks? Sounds like a Lord of the Rings movie. The story this time is that the professor blindfolds Spyro and Sparks into his lab, where he reveals to them his newest invention that keeps an eye on Ripto. First of all, I'm calling the police. And second of all, what the hell is Ripto doing? The professor then shows us a machine that's in the form of a pig for some reason, and we head into the virtual playground since the other surprises are ready. The virtual playground is where all the tutorial stuff are: jumping, gliding, etc. and etc. yada yada. Upon our arrival, the second surprise is ready. It turns out it's a robot by the name of Butler. Oh, haha, real subtle. So I'm assuming you don't need me to tell you what the function is supposed to be, but he heads up malfunctioning. Professor, he's out of control, turn it off. Alright, wait, I forgot to install the off switch. I can't turn it off. So, why not? Who needs an off button? That's unimportant. I mean, that's as stupid as Benson forgetting the off button. So after taking care of the butler, the hole that allowed the professor to stalk Ripto has gotten bigger, allowing guess who to come through. Aside from the fact that Ripto is overused as a villain, why are the Rhinorks working for Ripto? They worked for Sorceress, not Ripto. And if it's because they came to him, then that's just dumb, because how would they even know about him? The Sorceress certainly didn't know about Ripto, so why would they?
This makes no sense!
Ah yes, I remember an evil dinosaur that somehow survived lava, destined to come back after a freak accident robot, destined to have revenge on the purple dragon. In fact, I was there. I was there. And to think it could have been stopped. Ripto! Cast it into the fire! Burn it! Destroy it! No! Ooh, that's my call. Ripto! Ripto! Ever since then, people who knew Ripto knew misery, betrayal, just about every bitterness possible, including me. Well, anyway, instead of doing what the previous games did, Spyro Attack of the Rhinorks sets out to be brave and bold by having a new system. You see, in each world you get a certain amount of missions that you can't immediately complete because the collectibles required for the mission is in a different world, rinse and repeat. And they don't just want you to collect one, they want you to collect many. And because of that, it makes the game feel like it's been stretched way too thin. Also, I'm sorry, but these level designs have nothing going for it. At least with Ice, something was happening, and with Flame, it was just well designed, but here, nothing special. What the fuck? The reason you're doing this is simple. It's because you're trying to get the hearts, 12 in total. That also means that in total, this game has 12 levels. And that each time you finish a mission, you need to go back to the level the mission giver was in. Which adds to the feeling of it being too stretched out for its own good. The worst part is they have you doing better stuff like destroying their TVs or even rescuing the soldiers. Those missions were akin to something Spyro 2 would had. I wish they had more of those missions. But instead, it's just a thinly thin fetch quest. Agent Bird and Space Monkey each have their own mini games. They are both worse from Season of Flame, but they are once again also boring. And as for the bosses, well, yeah.
I hate this.
And as for the music, even though it is the best out of the trilogy, I still don't think it fits for Spyro. I don't know why they went for that style, that whimsical style. But that was Attack of the Rhinorks. This is frustrating. This game is so frustrating because it has a lot of things that works. They improved a lot of stuff from the first two, but they just had to change the formula and fumbled the bag. But in a way, this reminds me of the trilogy. The first one is... The second one I like, and the third one is not as good. Comes around back in circle. It's like if the PS1 and GBA games were tied in a way. But this isn't over though, since if it was, I would have just named this the Spyro GBA trilogy. Nope, but instead I said Spyro GBA games. So, what is the final Spyro game? One that's hopefully not as bad as the ominous music suggests. One that's hopefully not notorious. One that's not. Okay, so the story this time is that Cortex and Riptor joins forces. Okay, stop. How game? How are they meeting? How? You can't just throw in that they are together. You gotta tell me how they met. Because if you're going to make me believe that Spyro and Crash haven't met before, which, fair, then how did these two meet? How and why do they already know each other? They have a plan, but what's that brilliant plan, you may ask? Well, it's to genetically modify Riptor's Riptox minions and disguise them as Crash and Spyro with a laser mask. Okay, not even a blind person can fall for that. It's just so obvious it's not them. It's just so stupid. At least our heroes aren't dumb enough to fall for that. I mean, maybe Crash, but not Spyro. At least he definitely won't. Unlike previous games, this plays a lot more like a Crash Bandicoot GBA game, down to the fact that you can't charge or glide, which is weird. That's like making Bomberman not able to put bombs. Thankfully, you can still breathe fire, but it's so pathetic and it looks more like you're spitting. Hey, Attack of the Rhinos? I'm sorry, your level design is Citizen Kane compared to this game's level design, which is bad. It's pretty bad. But if you're sick of those, you can press a single button repeatedly. Yay! How about two slow side scrollers, one horizontally and the other vertically? Add one more for Spyro actually using his wings. How about a mini game where you shoot and build kinda like a precursor to Fifth Day? Bosses? What bosses? You mean the big enemies that are even more pathetic than the usual? Don't forget the cards money bags is selling that are worth jack. This game In conclusion, the Spyro Game Boy Advance games are really interesting. Some were good, some were... I might be able to do this again with Crash Bandicoot, but only if you really want to. Until then, however, there's another marathon I need to get back to, but first, I'm taking a nap. Spyro want cookies. Spyro want cookies and milk. No, Spyro doesn't want milk and cookies, you crazy metal menace. Ripto! Ripto! Ripto!